Whereas people doing more independent projects, side projects. So I feel like these creative spaces are good.
For sure. And we're started. Looks like we're started. We're started.
All right.
Welcome to the show. Yeah, you mentioned creative spaces. I think it's something that's really building here.
Yeah,
here
for
on Guam.
sure.
Entrepreneurship has like skyrocketed over at least the last 5 years.
Absolutely,
when
man.
I first moved back to Guam in 2010, there was no real belief in entrepreneurship. You know, it's still that typical road of the American dream.
Right.
And I went through it. I mean, I went to college, and I still have a 9 to 5, and this is sort of like my hobby.
Right.
In a sense.
Your passion.
Right. My passion.
What fuels you? Exactly, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but enough about me.
No.
You, man, how did you get into everything that you're in now? I remember when I first moved back, nothing existed like EIF, and then all of a sudden, 2012, 2013, now EDM has like graced the surface of Guam. Is this something that's always been a part of your life? And you know, I remember I was a freshman in high school. You were a senior, and after that, I just kind of heard of you until EIF, and they're like Jia Wang. I was like, Jia Wang, the basketball player?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So that's pretty much what I was known as growing up here in Guam. And after I moved to stateside, it wasn't until my last year of college, and granted I took the victory lap, so going into my 5th year.
Yeah, just
pull it senior year. Okay,
pull it down a little bit so you're not having to.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So it wasn't until my last year of senior year that summer, I actually met up with a bunch of friends from Guam in San Diego, and they were the ones that's like, hey, come check us out, and we're gonna be hanging out and whatnot. I think you might like this party.
Right.
I didn't really know what it was.
Like around 2005, 6?
2006.
Okay.
Yeah, 2006 summer. And I got introduced to it. And during that time, I didn't really have much of a passion, right? Basketball was pretty much my entire life up until that point. And, after realizing that you're not going to the NBA or playing pro, that kind of, affected me in a way, just kind of going through life, going through the motion.
Did you ever like try to play in college or anything?
I graced the idea while I was in Virginia, so that's where I went to college. And I tried out, but at the same time, I was like, you know what, this isn't really what I want to do moving forward, right? It's just kind of like the passion, the fire kind of died down, and from there, I sort of gave the sport up in a bit, and it was during that period where I got introduced to the music, and I go, wow, I haven't felt something as strongly as this since playing basketball.
Right.
And from there,
so you had no experience in like even touching a piece of DJ equipment?
Not at all.
Not changing CDs at the parties?
No. It was only after a year later. My brother had this DJ CD player, and I saw him kind of messing around with it. I kind of got interested in it, and then once you start going to the clubs and you start seeing the DJs, and during that time I was just diving into the music. Once I realized, like, hey, this DJ is just playing all the top 40s of this genre. Like, it's literally just him downloading the top 40 and just playing it. And in electronic music, it's not like that. It's about finding your music, finding your sound, and being able to deliver something special for the audience.
Emotion,
yeah. Perhaps.
I believe it was around 2009 or 10. I went to Beyond Wonderland, and that was my first like real like rave experience.
Yep.
And that's all I felt was just this dude up here is playing music, and the way the light set down over the crowd, I was like, oh my God, I feel great.
yeah, exactly, man. And that's the whole like experience. It's the whole audio visual experience.
For sure.
And speaking of Beyond Wonderland, my first rave or massive was during that summer EDC, when it was still in San Bernardino. And that experience, along with kind of being with friends from Guam, everyone having an interest, I decided, hey, this is something I'm going to try to pursue. I don't know what it is yet. I don't even know, what this is, but I just know that it spoke to my heart, right? Quote unquote, right? Sounds cheesy, but it was, it filled that void that I was looking for. And from there, I just went into this whole path, started DJing, then from DJing started promoting events. From promoting events, just really started like getting involved in the industry and just kind of threw myself in. And the last gosh, 11, 12 years now. You know, it's I wore pretty much every hat in the industry, from being a DJ, promoter, concert organizer, a booking agent, an artist manager. We even do artist visas. We do social media marketing for the industry. So really kind of just went in with that mentality that I had with basketball, is going all in. But this time I knew that I wasn't going to give this one up. And
but how did you know where to insert yourself into the industry, right? It was still like a real budding industry. I mean, it wasn't as popular as it is today, and plus social media isn't around to where you can just like message someone like, hey, can I just play here? It's like you had to do all the literal legwork to getting yourself out there. And how did you know you were good enough to even put yourself into the scene? Where were you at? Were you still in Virginia? Did you now?
Yeah. So what happened was after my senior year, after I graduated, I moved to San Diego for a year, and that was really when I got really deep into it. So it was during that year in San Diego I really started digging deep on the music, started to learn how to DJ. Then a year afterwards, I moved to LA, and I think that's when everything kind of changed in a sense. The city's huge, the market is big, and that's when I launched my company now called 6 a.m. Group. I wanted to build a platform to be able to, I guess, express how I wanted to promote the music, how I wanted to sort of get involved in that sense, right?
Right.
And yeah, what happened was, when you get into something as, I guess arts for music, you always get excited in the beginning, right? Like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do.
Gung ho.
Yeah, exactly. I got this. It's like
right? That trip to Vegas. The first 30 minutes, it's like,
yeah.
Then it was, all right. Calm down.
Right. Exactly.
Wait till we see the sign.
Exactly. So I kind of went in with that mentality, and lo and behold, man, believe it or not, after it took me 3 years to get my first DJ gig.
Wow.
Yeah, because I just did not know how to properly network, or either that, or I guess my music or my mixes weren't good enough for people to actually book me. So
how were you doing it? Were you creating mixes? Or were you creating your own music?
It was more creating mixes. For me, the whole DJing aspect was where I had the interest in, right? Eventually I did kind of sit down and try to make music, but my heart wasn't there. And I'm not gonna lie to myself and to go into the studio and make music. Right. So instead of going that route, I actually got into event promotions. But let's back up a little bit more, right?
Sure.
Being in the bedroom, just kind of practicing for 3 years straight. That's when I knew I was ready, right? It's kind of like being in the lab, right? Like you're just at home, you're like, dude, you got this. And 3 years in the decks, no one's heard. That's how I actually built the confidence. And eventually my mixes got better. I started networking better. I built my little following, and from there I got my first gig. And that's really where things kind of took off in a sense. Then after I started DJing a lot, I felt another void.
Right.
Like, just, this is cool, but it's not really making me happy that I thought I was gonna.
Did it become like an obligation or something that was now? Because I played in a band here on Guam for maybe almost 3 years, and there was a point where music felt like an obligation. Like, oh, okay, guess got a gig again tonight.
That's how I felt.
Jam, play the same set one.
Yeah.
Should we mix set 3 to set 1?
Right. And I think, with respect to creative arts, that's when you're in trouble, when it starts to feel like an obligation.
Right.
When you feel jaded, when you feel like a hamster in a wheel, and then you start questioning, like, all right, what is all this? What does this mean?
For sure.
And
because at this point, this is something that you're putting all into your
pretty
life,
much,
right? I mean, what did you graduate in?
I graduated with an accounting finance degree.
Okay.
But I actually had a job for 9 years with the same company, just so I can have that stability,
the support,
to be able to kind of push this whole music and event.
I know what I'm doing right now with this podcast,
Hey man, everyone's got to hustle, dude. That's
sure.
That's the beauty of creative arts. It's, if you really love it enough, you will do whatever it takes to make it happen, and being able to find purpose and meaning behind that.
For
so,
sure.
Yeah,
man. When I first started doing this, there was a point, couple years into doing the podcast, and I was just like, do I want to even do this anymore? And I was kind of like losing the love. And then I told myself, I was like, man, I have to, like, if I really want to be passionate about this, I have to really fall in love with it. Like, be in love with the process, whether it sucks or not. And right there, I figured out, like, if you're doing something and you don't want to do it, but you do it anyways, and it makes you want to do it even more after you do it, there's your answer of whether you should be doing it or not.
Yeah, for sure. I think you definitely hit the nail on the coffin with that one, right? I mean, loving the process, and it's not just loving the good moments, right? It's about loving the entirety of it, the part that sucks, the part that nobody sees, the part that nobody wants to go through, right? Everybody just wants to see the success and be like, oh, well, that happened overnight. It's like, no, dude, it took me 10 years. It took you however many years to be able to do this. And I think, that's what's part of it, is going through the process and staying true to the art and just really grinding it out, man.
Right. So now you're grinding out in getting gigs and being an event promoter.
Yeah.
And so how does everything like tie in? How did everything start unraveling for you?
Yes.
So to speak.
I would say it was after I landed my residency at Avalon. So Avalon, for those who don't know, it's like a major nightclub in Los Angeles. Okay. I landed a weekly after hours gig over there. And it was through that where I met my mentor, Steve Pryor. And he really changed my whole perspective on this. And to kind of give you an example, this music industry per se, right? Everybody always, I guess, sees the DJ part of it, right? Or the artist side of it. They don't realize that there's an entire ecosystem or engine that's pushing and supporting the performers, supporting the show. I guess all the people that's running in the back, making it happen in the front.
For sure.
Right. And it was through the part where I started feeling jaded, where I go, hey, it's no longer that fun to me. What can I do? And that's when he said, hey, be more than a DJ then. Go get involved with the industry, right? You don't need permission to start. Like, if you're feeling jaded from DJing, you're not loving it anymore, but you don't want to leave the industry. That's where I was feeling. I was like, well, this is cool, but I don't know if this is something that is truly making me happy, but I love this music and I love this industry. Right. What else can I do? I'm not just gonna give this one up, right?
Right. So that's when not everybody just gets a residency at the most popular nightclub.
Exactly, man. And
that's almost like how do you say it? Like taking it for granted.
Yeah, exactly.
You spoiled asshole.
Exactly, man. But that was the reality of it, and
for sure.
It wasn't until that he was like, hey, be more than a DJ. If you really love this, right, then help this community, help this industry, do what you can. That's when I put my promoter hat. I go, I love this so much. I want to promote this music, promote the scene, but also because I'm so aware of the negative connotation that comes with a rave, right, a dance music festival, etc., that my entire goal is to shine a more positive light onto it, right? It's like, yes, there's drugs, there's all these things that happen, but let's not focus on that, right? These moments are real, right? Being able to connect with your friends, being able to connect with yourself through these moments, and being able to then re-inspire yourself to re-trigger or reset whatever it is you're going through in life, right? I went through it myself. I felt it, and I know that, a lot of people have felt it one way or another, and that's all we're trying to do, is being able to create this moment, a platform for people to then use it as a positive thing, because that Monday morning comes and they had a great weekend, life is good, let's go out there and grind and let's make it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're taking yourself out of DJ, not taking yourself out of it, but now you're adding a different element. Is it to promote yourself, or is it now to expand yourself, is only for networking purposes? And I mean, I get that you would go into a different aspect of the industry to sort of not get so burnt out,
right?
But what did you see was the added benefit to adding this?
So what happened was, after that, we launched our website, 6amgroup.com. We started blogging. So through this, medium, we started reaching out to local artists, local events, other labels
within the LA County.
Within the LA County first, and the more local to see how we can help, use this platform to push, and then eventually, our outreach for the blog and website started reaching more and more readers online, and eventually our
and this was all before social media, all before the Instagram.
It was right.
MySpace.
It was right during that time, like 2010, 2011,
okay.
during that time,
right.
And launched the website. Started blogging, started to promote other events beyond just yourself, because I think where that emptiness came from was that in the beginning it was all about myself, right? I mean, let's be real. I was selfish and self-centered, and I think if you really love something, I just feel like being selfish, and in a way it brings an emptiness, because it's in a way a toxic behavior, and I feel like whenever you have this toxic behavior in you, you're just not going to feel good about doing something, or it's not going to sustain, because in the end you're going to want to try to find meaning and purpose behind it, and making this all about yourself, it's never going to work.
Turns out to be a lonely road, man.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh, man, I feel like I was watching a movie recently that was that example. Freddie Mercury from Queen.
Yes.
He's a great example. He became so lonely in his journey to stardom and fame, and to where his habits were getting the best of his music. He left Queen,
his mindset, right?
I mean, solo albums totally flopped, and then he ended up contracting AIDS because of all his habits and all this, whatever it may be, right? But in the end, I felt like in that movie they really pointed out how lonely he became.
Exactly,
like,
man.
Invite all these people over, and I don't even care who they are.
Right.
I just want to be around people. But in the end, he was always by himself.
Lonely, exactly. And he made it all about himself, me, my album, my solo career, etc., and kind of pushed the whole team out, and that's his downfall. Right. In the end, good example. Good example.
Well, I felt like it just, I mean, so why now take something that was introduced to you and bring it over to Guam now? Did you think that something was missing? Did you think that maybe it wasn't here yet?
So here's the thing. When I first got introduced to the music, it was always in the back of my mind, like, this is awesome, and I think more people from home should be aware of it or be able to experience it, because I got to experience it through my friends from Guam. And it was when we started, I guess, partying and raving, going to all these festivals, I started to notice that there's pockets of people from Guam showing up to these festivals, right? After we graduate, we all usually move out into different areas, but it wasn't until EDC 2010, the last one in Los Angeles, where, check this out, about 400 people from Guam between the class of 1999 to 2009 were at EDC that I was aware of, that they flew in from New York, San Francisco, drove from San Diego, everywhere coming in. This is in 2010. And that night was when it triggered. I go, wow, I think Guam could be ready for this, because the buzz is there. Social media was kind of just now.
But it's not like it never existed. It had to be underground or something, right?
Yes, you're right. So I guess since we're on a podcast, I can share a little bit of an underground story that happened in Guam that not a lot of people know about.
Sure. Yeah.
Back in the day, my older brother, and his friends were actually doing these underground raves and parties at the old J&K Hong Kong restaurant in Marine Drive. Okay. You remember that Soraya on Marine Drive with the 2 stories?
With the lions?
With the lions, exactly. So
the lions.
So that was the root of, I guess.
It wasn't a bar there before?
It was a bar downstairs, and then it was a restaurant upstairs. Okay. So what they did was, after our parents and my aunts closed the restaurant, they turned that place into like this, underground kind of dance club. They would fly DJs in, and they would throw parties, and that was essentially, I guess, the beginning of kind of like Guam underground dance music, house techno culture.
This is like when you're in high school?
Yeah, my sophomore year, but I was completely blind to this whole scene. My brother just graduated from high school, and, he started hanging out with other people. And during that time, I was blind to it, but eventually I was told the story. And it was actually through that story that kind of re-inspired the idea of like, hey, let's actually bring this back, but let's do it the right way, right? Let's not do this underground, because what happened then was with anything underground, right, and it starts to get big, there's too much attention, there's too much heat, and eventually there was just, there was just too much heat, right? And it was not sustainable. And then somewhere in 2003, 2004, I think the scene kind of went a little bit dark in a sense, because it just, my brother moved away, everybody kind of stopped, everybody moved away. And
that was the dominant decade of reggae music.
Yes.
In Guam.
Yes.
Yes. That's what you expected of music here, was that sort of islandy reggae, California reggae especially.
Yeah. So during that period, there was nothing going on, and it wasn't until Ronnie Perez, Drew Mariano, they started this hush party, and they started re-pushing house and techno along with other music. And that was sort of when I was doing my research back home, like, hey, what's going on in Guam, right? I mean, I'm
scoping it out.
Yeah, right. And then, sure enough, once you start Googling, searching things on Facebook, you start to find these parties, and that's when I reconnected with them first. So it wasn't like I just came home like, hey, I'm going to come back and do this. I did some research. I came back home, met with these people, hung out with them, and kind of shared the idea of EIF. This is in 2011 when that happened. Everybody thought I was nuts. Like, you're going to try to do what? Like, first of all, you're trying to do a festival with what music, right? And how many people? I'm like, 1,000 to 1,500. Like, you're out of your mind. Like, no way. It's never been, forget about it.
Bring third world here. Maybe people will. 3,000 people or 2,000 people.
Yeah,
right?
And it wasn't just pushbacks from, there were a few believers like, hey, I kind of see what you're doing in LA, and, maybe this could work. But then everyone was definitely more on the. Did
you think that your resume would help sort of push or drive this idea?
A little bit, but it didn't stand a chance when I took my first few meetings. But they're just like, you know what, it's cool, it works out there, but I just don't think this is for Guam, right? And we're
so blinded here. You know what, dude? And I feel like that's our curse here on Guam, is that we always believed that we couldn't scale down what's seen in the States.
Yeah.
Right. And it's no, it's not possible here.
Right.
No one's really into that.
Right. And but that's the human mindset, dude. That's the default mindset, right? It's just like, it's never really a positive one, right?
The first thing always is sort of like look down on it, right?
Exactly, because that's it's safe and it's easy, right? And it perhaps makes them feel good, right?
Sure, for sure.
They're able to do that. So been rejected a few times. It took us, a few tries before we actually got it right. And speaking of Matt earlier, that was when he moved back, and a buddy of mine was like, hey, you should probably hit this guy up. He just moved back home, and,
Matt was literally fresh from Seattle.
Right. So after that, I connected with him, and that's when, that real belief happens. Like, dude, I was at a show in Seattle. I believe in this. Let's do this, and from there, it kind of just, we planned the first road to EIF to test the waters out, and 800 people showed up to the Globe for dance music. From there, man, I mean,
all the clubs were empty that night, Matt. 2013, all the clubs were empty. They were all at the Globe.
Were you there?
I was.
Right.
Man, I've been to the ones over at the beach bar. When you guys had the fireworks, right?
Yeah.
You guys have fireworks?
Actually, every year we have fireworks.
Right.
But the first year at Beach Bar was a special one because it was right on the beach.
It's in Paseo, right?
Paseo, year 2.
I had a friend who paddleboarded from.
That was your friend?
yeah, that was my friend.
I'd like to meet him.
They paddleboarded from the other side of Agana with a cooler of beer.
Yes, I know, because at some point we're like pointing there, like, who are those people over there? It's cool, but not gonna think of it. I still do remember that. That's funny.
Yeah, and now you come home for the 7th one, and now you have a plethora of DJs at your disposal, almost, right?
That is the beauty of this, man. The first 3 years, believe it or not, there was probably maybe 3 or 4 people that I trusted that can play this music. Now it's like, man.
Have you been out to see what's out there?
Yeah.
You've been home?
Yeah. I've actually been out every night. That's why I'm a little bit tired right now. But part of the reason why I came home this time was to really purposefully try to reconnect with sort of what I call the young, like the next generation of artists and DJs. You know, I followed the scene in Guam, and I'm starting to see new names on flyers. So every time I come back, Josh, DJ Silent, will always introduce me to the, you know, next wave of people, and he'll kind of pinpoint me like, hey, this is, you know, who you may be interested in booking for your events. So he's kind of helping me get a grasp of like what's happening down here. And yeah, you know, very happy to kind of hear the new wave of DJs just being a little bit more open-minded with their music and having a wider selection.
For sure, man. I feel like 2015 was a crazy year. I mean, that's just when everything, 2015, 2016 is when musicians just really started coming out of their shells and just not really giving a fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
About, you know, what's mainstream, you know, what's considered popular here on Guam. Why aren't we making our own style of music here?
Right.
We're a completely diverse mix of cultures and races here on Guam that whatever comes out of here is a real true definition of the kind of people who are coming out of here. You don't even have to be Chamorro. It's every race.
Right. It's a melting pot. In this island.
So
yeah, back to what you're saying, you know, as far as how the local music scene and the musicians started to quote unquote not give a fuck, right? And I think part of it is because of the internet and social media and YouTube and being able to cut out the middleman, right?
Like a seal of approval, right? Almost like, oh, is this worthy?
Right.
All right, let's see if it's worthy.
Yeah.
Make it and throw it out there.
Right, exactly. And you kind of have to put yourself in that mindset and not really care about what other people think. You know, I think people get too psyched up or get too crippled about other people's opinions, right? One, like, that sucks. Dude, that can like destroy a musician or any creative artist. But you have to have that strong mindset. And I think, you know, having these platforms, it really kind of, I guess in a way, it tests your mindset, right? Like if you put it out there and you get instant feedback, how do you push forward if someone's like, you know, or you know, on the other spectrum is people actually really like it, right? And that does something to a musician's or creative artist's mindset and I guess confidence. And being able to have that validation, I think that was non-existent, is so important in terms of how these artists push forward and get feedback and continue to evolve themselves.
Right. How did you do it? You know, it seems like you were going through an age, or you were doing this in an age where it wasn't social media driven music.
Yeah.
You didn't have SoundCloud where you can just throw your shit up on and see what happens.
Right.
Like Russ, you know, in terms of sensation off of his shit that he made in 2014.
For sure.
So, like, really, how did you get through that mindset, or push your mindset through those sort of hoops and ropes without getting that immediate reassurance that you are playing music that is good for, or that people like, right?
Right. You know, for me, a lot of it is really, again, you hit it in the nail in the coffin. Don't care about what people think, right? Not giving a fuck, right? Yeah. I mean, that's really my mindset going in. I know that, you know, what I play is not considered popular or mainstream during that time, but I know that I like it. And, you know, as long as I understand that there is a community that will accept this music, or that will at least give me a shot to listen to it, that's all I'm focusing on, right? I'm not pushing electronic music to country, you know, listeners, or, you know, shoving it to reggae, you know, a community. It's like I'm finding my own community and, you know, to making sure that I'm pushing the music towards the right avenue. And that way you're bound to get a better feedback than it is, you know, if you were to just really throw it out there and not really understand, you know, who your listeners and who your target audience is.
Yeah. And it seems like your gauge would also only be who shows up to your shows, right?
In the beginning, yes. And, you know, actually SoundCloud was quite new during the 2010, 2011 era. It just, you know, it's not the way it is now, where you can put something on there or Spotify and goes viral, right? That SoundCloud used to be super expensive, and it was really just made for musicians to kind of just upload their mix and just be able to share it. It wasn't really a platform to really promote your music.
Like a music MySpace kind of?
Kind of, exactly. You know, it's kind of like you have a SoundCloud, so that means that, you know, do you have content there, and it's just easier for you to, I guess, send your music out for gigs, for demos, not really used the way it is now. And, yeah, nowadays there's so many crazy platforms to really push your music. I mean, just even on Instagram Live, uploading things on your Instagram can go viral, right? Swipe up, etc. I mean, dude, there's so many different outlets that give musicians, I guess, their own voice and platform.
For sure. How do you now expand off of this, if there's any plans to expand, right? I guess bringing people here. I always believe that Guam could be a hub or a representative of what's going on here in the Pacific for Asia.
Yeah.
Better than Hawaii can do it. That's just my personal opinion, because we're here. We're so close.
Yep.
$300-400 away for most of these people.
Yep.
And how do we expound on that sort of idea that maybe instead of us having to go to the Philippines to watch these big shows, now how do we bring people here to watch these big shows?
Yeah, so when we started the concept of Electric Island Festival, the whole mantra was music tourism, right? Because we've traveled for music, right? I mean, you've been to Beyond Wonderland. I mean, it's known that people flock in for music, and I feel like this was one sector that the tourism industry was not putting any focus on.
Did you actually try to work with GVB at one point? Okay.
Yes. We
Every
did.
time I bring up GVB, people always have that kind of laugh.
We definitely did. I wrote this 20-page proposal, a 5-year game plan in terms of how music tourism can actually expand in Guam. I don't think they believed in it. Either that or they had their own interest in mind.
For sure.
Where, they're just like, that's cool, but we're going to go ahead and do...
this is our agenda right here, sir.
Yeah, exactly. This is our agenda, and, I hate to say this, right? Since it's a podcast, they started Guam Live based on this notion of music tourism. Hey, good idea, man. But let us do this, but let's not include any electronic music. So therefore, we're not really stealing your idea because you were coming in for electronic music.
Look how quickly that died. You know what I mean? So
when you do something without purpose and intent, that passion, right? In the event space and in creative arts, that's the X factor.
For sure.
But, I'm actually happy to mention this, and I guess I'll be the first to kind of share this information, is that with the new administration, they're definitely open to hearing this concept again, and they actually believe in EIF and sort of how...
Well, now you have a track record, right?
So all the legwork's been done.
Last year we brought in Still Pulse.
Right.
You want to bring in who?
Right, exactly. And, not to say that we didn't end up doing our own thing. It's like, look, that's cool. We'll go ahead and still keep doing it. And, through that, I guess, intent, we've done Road to EIF in Tokyo, Manila, Hong Kong, Cebu. We did it in Taipei.
And how were the turnouts for those?
The turnouts were good. Because what we'll do is we'll book a local DJ that's really well known, that's played for us, and kind of really promote Guam and promote, our EIF brand. But, that kind of died out eventually because those are just more like marketing activations, right? It's really just an event there. I mean, we're not making much money. If anything, we're just investing and spending it as like a way to market it. And eventually, it's like I'm getting my team to do all this work, right? Not getting too much of a return. And it's not to say that money is important, but it's a lot of work. And I just feel like, we should be supported by XYZ organization, aka GBB, right? In terms of doing these initiatives and making real connections. I was on the radio yesterday, and one thing that we're really, really proud of EIF is that we have really, really made a deep connection with within our industry, all the different countries. With Ace here, POW here, I mean, they're partners and residents at Xylo Manila. I mean, we brought in club owners from Taipei. We brought in, big industry DJs from Japan, from Woom Nightclub. They hosted a stage in 2015 when we had the 2 stage, and through that, real friendship and real connections were made. I mean, they are now our friends, and we're still friends to this day. And I feel like that's one area that, man, I don't know how many events here have done that kind of deep connection. And even us expanding to Saipan, I have homies and brothers and sisters now in Saipan, and even now, just even through merch collaborations, like you see Tribe collabing with Crowns, collabing with Opaque.
Right.
I think it's really through that, I guess, ripple, that was that intent. Everybody's like, hey, there is room for collaboration. There's room to like.
Yeah, it's not always it's not always a competition.
Exactly. Yeah, let's work with each other, right?
Yeah, we think that because Guam's small, the landscape to do good for yourself is also small.
It's a mindset thing, right? It's a scarcity mindset, right? It's never enough. It's not enough. It's my pie.
In a sense that there isn't enough room for the two of us.
Correct, exactly. But I think that's it. It goes back to the scarcity mindset. Now the pushback is, well, Guam's a small market, right? But my pushback is, I think if we play this thing right, there's actually enough for everyone. And a good example is, the native guy, Jared. He's been doing big concerts.
Right.
We talk all the time. Let's just not do a concert on the same weekend. How about that, right?
Right.
You get yours. That's cool to respect that. We have ours. The market's big enough. I think if we split this right, give people some breathing room to make things, concert tickets aren't cheap. We understand that, right? But I think if we...
So they're not buying weekend... I either go this weekend or I go this weekend.
Right. And we're mindful of that. We're mindful of the economics, here, and we're just very mindful of, consumer behavior. And so we actually do work together in that sense where we don't intentionally try to compete against each other, right? It's not good for the scene. It's just not good for the creative art space, because we do understand that it is a smaller market.
Right.
But with a more abundance mindset, let's not compete against each other and let's each get ours.
Right. I feel like with the music promotion or just having concerts here, I don't maybe this just might be my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. It always seems like it has to be on a large scale every time someone comes here. And it's kind of weird. I feel like there's always a lose out. You're always bound to lose out when you're trying to make it so grand and big, like trying to get so many people, but it seems like it costs so much just to get someone here.
Right.
Might as well fucking push for that.
For sure.
That maximum capacity, yeah.
Exactly. At least speaking for the main event, yes. I mean, there is real money and dollars being spent on production, flying these DJs up, hosting them, booking them. I mean, there is that aspect of it, right? And I think you're absolutely right. I think the Guam market in general, right, because it is a smaller island, right, the word hype, right, it's a real thing here, right? When you make something bigger than what it really is, or what it or what it could be, right, it drives that hype, it drives that attention, and in a way it kind of is a marketing tactic in a sense, right? But going back to what you're saying and what I'm actually seeing in LA, or at least in the festival realm in San Diego, is that they're going back into the whole boutique, the whole quality over quantity approach, right? And it's really interesting. It's like LA is such a big city, 10 million people, right? You can
easily get 45,000 people
right.
in one place.
And they have, right? And I feel like people then started getting jaded from like, dude, I don't know if I want to party with 20, 30,000 people, right? How about we just scale this back?
Tired of carrying this 30-foot fucking flag.
Right. Going from one stage to another, right? And man, dude, you're aware of what's happening, and for sure. And I think because it's a small island, we go big, but now it's like in a big city, everyone's tired of that big thing and they want to go small again.
Yeah.
Because everything in Guam has always historically been small. It's a small island, just it's just who we are, like in a sense, and that's why I think in a way the people from Guam is always trying to go out there and really be proud and try to represent who we are, because we are from a small island, but we have a big heart going into it. And and I guess not to spill too much information, right? We're mindful of that like it's been going on 7 years every year. I mean, it's just like promotions like crazy, right? I mean, you go to the movie theaters and you're seeing us in the previews, like, geez, can you guys go away? Like, I mean, I get hit up from my friends in high school, like, dude, like, I'm just driving, man. I'm seeing, you guys are everywhere. What's going on? And I understand that, but moving forward in terms of how we then expand on the creativity side, is we are currently right now conceptualizing on a more small kind. Everything that's EIF, this new kind of concept, which hopefully we're going to be able to launch in a few years, is the complete opposite.
Yeah, man. I feel like for me, it's all about experience, and I feel like Guam concert experiences has become almost monotonous. You hear of a reggae band coming to Guam and you're going to expect the same setup, the same truss, the same tent, the same barbecue vendors in the back, maybe a t-shirt vendor here and there, but you're not changing up. It's not changing up the experience. Yeah, you're changing the music or the headliner who's coming, but I'm still at Epal Beach Park, or I'm still at the Jigo Raceway, or I'm still at Leo Palace, and it still feels the same. And I feel like over the years, that's what's sort of been missing with at least the reggae, with people bringing in reggae artists.
Right.
I feel like Trench Fest. I helped out with Trench Fest.
Nice.
I feel like
they're doing good things.
Yeah. They haven't thrown a show in a couple of years, but very successful events. And it was just, I feel like it was so successful because it was an experience. You even had the bands after they finish, the bands who flew in, they're like mingling with the crowd, taking pictures. Like, whoa, he's just not hanging out in the green room. He's out here like taking pictures with me and shit.
Yep.
And that's what sort of changed that whole aspect of what Trench Fest is about. And like up to now, people are on tour like, I'm ready for another Trench Fest.
Right.
And when you put that sort of like feeling and emotion into somebody from an event, you're doing something right.
For sure. I think part of the challenge really, for promoters who's trying to do, I guess, concerts or festivals here is also the lack of production resources, right?
You kind of have the same go-to.
Right,
people.
And it's,
not to shit on them.
Right.
Not to shit on them.
I
feel like it's good.
I know. I'm like,
sorry,
no.
I really like Jam's Media.
Yeah, for sure. And
Jeff Sanchez, right?
Jeff's been great, man. I mean, he's been,
he's even upped it to even like the
he
screens,
has
the way
he has, and every year, I always, have.
He even does fireworks himself.
He does exactly, yeah. So we've been working with him, and he understands that, and he's always trying to improve his equipment and stuff. I mean, these things are not cheap, right? You also have to understand that our budget's only a certain amount. If he buys equipment and dumps it on us, I'm pushing it like, Jeff, this that's yours. But then it's like he's investing in this.
Keep the fireworks.
Right. So I think it's just a matter of then it comes down to the promoter. Like, hey, look, it doesn't always have to rely on new LED walls or new lasers and all these things. It could be other aspects of creative production, which is a big theme for us going into this year's EIF, because you're hitting the nail on the coffin on everything. Because I am feeling, because we are starting to feel that, like, okay, it's going into our 7th year. We, what can we truly do, to sort of bring either the stage to life or bring something else, because we've just been focused on really just promoting the event, running the show. It's a lot already, right? And then you have to add a whole creative aspect on it.
For sure, yeah.
That's it's not easy, but I'm challenging my team. Like, look, it's our 7th year. We've got our process down. Like, let's get creative. Like, let's talk about it now. What can we do where people?
How can we bring in some fucking animatronics?
Right. I mean, how can we create that experience for people, whether it's visually, appealing?
Yeah.
What is that going to be? So we've been actually working on it. Hopefully this year, we're going to be able to kind of bring a different feel and vibe into it. And there's a big announcement coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, you guys got shows all throughout the year. Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah.
That's plenty.
Yeah, we call this the EIF season, man. I feel like after every EIF, everyone's always like, when's the next one? And, as much as we only do the big one in June, we feel like there's enough people, at least 600, 700 people that's still craving for just something every 2 to 3 months. And, for us, it's also a way to kind of tell the whole story and the journey, right? Doing these events, people in the forefront really only just see, oh, it's a party, right? These guys are just putting together a party. Man, I'm in Los Angeles, 10 p.m., taking meetings with sponsors. There's real work that goes behind this party, quote unquote.
Right.
Right. I mean, we are busting our ass off to make sure that we're able to create this. And, you know, granted, a lot of the times we don't make a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
People think that we do, but it's like you don't realize how many free tickets we give away, right? Just so people can come and experience it. So for us, it's like, look, we're working all year long, right? If you're hustling, I don't care what field you're in. In a sense, we're all kind of like in this whole creative thing. You doing the podcast, there's musicians, there's artists, we're event creators. We're all creators, right? For sure. And in a sense, we kind of want to use the EIF to say, look, man, we're grinding all year. Let's do this. Let's all grind. Let's all work so that we can all play and celebrate together. We're working to make sure that when this moment comes, you feel like you've worked your ass off as well, so that you deserve a night out, right? We always push this. Like, look, if you're broke, don't come to EIF. Like, seriously. But people tweet, like, can you, you know, give me a free ticket. It's like, dude, if you can't, you know, if you don't have $20 or $30 in the next 3 months, like, you have other things to worry about.
Right.
You know,
go pay that cell phone bill.
yeah, exactly. You know, so we really preach that, man, that partying and playing, it's a privilege, not a right. You got to work for it.
Right.
It's a whole work to play mentality, man.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess I really like the idea of a smaller venue because I've seen, you know, the larger concerts and people ruin experiences for other people because they're just not into it. There's this really bad habit at reggae concerts here on Guam where you have people literally sitting on the front row, like on their lawn chairs, like while the main act is playing. And they're and they're so stubborn that they have like a boxed out area of their lawn chairs while people are fucking standing around them, and it's like
it's killing the vibe.
Yeah, it's like, dude, you guys realize what you guys are doing to these people? It's like you're just in my way for me having a good time, right? And I think people would be willing to pay a higher price to have that sort of exclusive experience, right? Like, shit, there's not gonna be 1,000 people there. I'll pay that extra dime. Yeah.
Exactly. And, you know, not to spill too much, but you're definitely right. Like, yeah, I mean, I feel
am I revealing too much?
No, you're not. Because, look, you know, I think whenever I conceptualize an event, I always go, okay, you know, what's the mindset of this audience that I'm trying to eventually pitch this festival to? Whether it's EIF, right? EIF is like small island, but let's go big. Right. Let's build this up and build some hype around it, right? And I think if you want to really go with the more intimate vibe, it's about exclusivity. Yeah, for sure. Right? Because then that's also another reverse psychology. We're only selling 300 tickets. I don't care who you are. I don't care, you know. Yeah. We're only doing 300 because the space can only fit, you know, 320, right?
Right. And I got 25 staff.
Right. And you know, I think if you're willing to take that risk and go that route and say, look, maybe we charge a little bit more, right? Perhaps because there has to be a give and take, right? Sure. I mean, if you're still trying to create that experience, right? That like awe factor. I mean, you can't just, you know, say, okay,
it's just it's harder to create an awe factor for 3,000 people.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So yeah,
maybe if you're EDC, right?
Yeah, but that, dude, they're at a whole different level. Right. That's they
have the population of Guam going to fucking one area.
That blows me away every time when they come out the number. I go, man, like Guam was there for 2 nights in a row. Jeez, like literally everyone, all ages, everyone is there. No one's missing.
Babies, grandmas.
Exactly. Your dog, your cats, bring everyone. Yeah, seriously.
And it's. It might be a reality that we need to start facing, right? And I know there's a lot of people who've lost out on money bringing in these big acts, and people, they're not getting the showing that they thought they were gonna get.
And that's when, you know, when that happens, something interesting, you know, then you start asking, like, why are you doing this? Right. And, you know, I'll share this for the first time, sort of in a more public sense. We didn't always make money with EIF. And if anything, 2016, if anyone still remembers, we did 2 stages, right? Not to share any figures, but let's just say everything went up in costs, but the attendance remained the same. So you know, you guys can imagine what kind of punch in the face we got.
For sure.
Kicking the balls. I mean, everything, man. You know, and I think, yeah, it's.
But it's learning experiences, right? I mean, you can't throw a perfect show the first time.
It's part of the process that we talked about
for sure
earlier, and that, you know, every concert event producer promoter, you know, your true character and your true purpose and intent gets driven out when you get punched in the face like that.
Right.
So, yeah, everyone goes through it, guaranteed. No one goes through this undefeated.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's.
Do you think you forcing yourself to go into different aspects of the industry helped evolve your character into what it is today?
100%.
Yeah, like if you had stayed a DJ, just a DJ, do you think you would be doing this?
100% not. If I just stick to the whole DJ thing, I'd be done already. We wouldn't be talking. I mean, because the thing is, it was just too self-centered of a passion for me to find a reason or a purpose. Because, you know, at some point, I also had a self-realization that I may not be the next Tiesto. And right, I mean, I first went in.
Let me just share a story with you. One of my friends, I was playing music, right? Writing music, love to write music and stuff. And he goes, let's face it, man, you're not gonna sell 1 million albums like Beyonce. I was like, all right, cool, yeah. Let me start getting serious in school.
Yeah. You know, but I think, you know, it's being self-aware, because when I played basketball, that was the thing. I was like, dude, I'm gonna go to the NBA. And then when that reality hit, like, oh crap, you know, and that's when I gave up. So this time around, when I realized, hey, I'm not gonna be the next, you know, Tiesto.
Right,
Let's just keep using him as an example. You know, I didn't want to give it up. I go, you know what? Then it's okay. What I didn't realize in basketball was that, hey, I could have been a coach. I could have been a trainer. I could have been all this, but I was too self-centered. No, I want to be the guy that shoots the ball, catch the ball, right? I want to be the one that's, and looking back into it,
that's fucking, yeah.
Looking back into it, man, I'll tell you this. I realized that I like the idea of being a basketball player, but not in a sense of really going through the process. And, you know, the late Tony Thompson would be pretty upset, you know, but I'm going to be true to myself, man. There were times I cheated practice. You know, I just didn't do that extra thing. I didn't, you know, and looking back, you know, perhaps that's the reason why this whole basketball thing didn't take off, because for me, it became like, yeah, you know, it was a cool thing, you know, what I, you know, playing for FD, et cetera, right? I mean,
but after the game, we're gonna go drink and party.
Exactly, and hang out, and you know, that's right, and that's that. And so with electronic music now, this time around, it's like, look, you know, be more than a DJ. And through my experience of wearing multiple hats, it gave me a really like wide perspective, a multifaceted view. And even though I'm not a true musician, and I say this because I don't write music, I don't produce. I've actually learned to.
Sorry, bro.
No, that's all right.
There you go.
I've actually learned to understand the mindset of these artists that are going through the process, and in a sense, you know, most people would consider me now like either the big brother or the coach of the industry, and it really was being a artist manager and just hearing artists cry, coming up with their own excuses, right? Being an agent and hearing, you know, artists cry.
Damn, you expanded all the way to there.
Yeah.
Like representing.
Oh yeah, we represent other DJs in Europe right now in North America in the techno field. Yeah, so I'm also an agent as well. I mean, it's hard work, man.
So you're traveling a lot then too.
I'm traveling a lot, going with them to shows, meeting other promoters now, right? My peers, perhaps. To just being really, I guess, an overall rounded view of the industry. And I think, like you said, through that experience, which I don't think a lot of people had the, I guess, opportunity or even had the will to like wear this many hats.
Or maybe even the awareness to even think it's possible.
Yeah. And the one big thing that I kind of came into conclusion is that, dude, this music industry, forget about electronic music. Let's just talk about music industry. It all works in a cohesive manner, right? Without the artist, there's no content or no show. But without the promoters, there's no event. Right. But without, you know, the audience, the fans, dude, let's even include them. Who are we selling and promoting to? Without the artist managers, who's doing all this? The tour managers, then all the people that's running the whole thing, right? Everyone, it's all part of the ecosystem. And where I kind of bash artists now is like, dude, relax. Because if we pull the rug off from you, you're just singing by yourself. You're just, you're an artist, you're talented, that's great, but don't be too damn egotistic, because there's so much more that's happening behind you and beyond you. And that, through time, you're only going to get your 15, 20 minutes.
Right.
But after you're gone, we're going to, help the next artist.
Right.
And, that's where they really have to come into conclusion, like, hey, you know what? You're right. We're all part of the ecosystem. Let's all work together.
Yeah.
And see how we can, I guess, push this all together. I hate dealing with egotistic artists and industry people, man. That's just like, dude, we're not curing cancer. No one's curing Alzheimer's. Like,
you're not taking us to the moon.
Right, exactly, right? And it's like, look, how lucky are you to just be able to choose this in life? Like, why are you depressed? Like, I'm sad. All right, well, there are kids in the Philippines right now that don't have food or water the next day. Like, let's just take to the extreme, and you're worried that you don't have this piece of gear. Like, dude, come on, man.
Yeah.
Seriously, I go there all the time. Like, I'm sad and depressed because I'm not famous. Like, all right, well, at least you're not starving. You have a roof over your head. So let's just start from there. Keeping it real, right? I mean,
it's now that you've attacked this sort of like agent, I want to go back to being multifaceted, but I'm very interested in the agency thing, because I always mention it's like maybe that's what Guam's missing for talent, right? It's an agent to help facilitate these business dealings with other people, like getting people tours in Asia. I've always wondered why bands aren't interested in. I can't say that now because we've had a few bands tour Japan.
Yeah,
right, and we have a couple going next month.
Yeah, right? I saw Fat Tofu. Yeah, I saw.
Right? And I think Local Deluxe, I believe.
Okay.
And it's maybe that's sort of what we're missing. Somebody, an agent. Do you think you can find yourself here, maybe representing local DJs to get into the Asian circuit? Is there such thing as an Asian circuit?
Yeah. There definitely is, and it's actually already happening. I kind of want to push back on the whole ideology of like an artist needing a manager or agent, right? Okay. And let me tell you how all this works out. Until you put in the work yourself and you start doing your own, I guess, tours and get like doing the process, like going through the process yourself, no one's gonna believe in you, right? Yeah. When these agents and managers come to you, they already either see something or see that you're on the track of doing something. Yeah, that's always the X factor.
Hey, I see you're carrying a heavy load. Let me take that off of you.
Right.
Focus on your music.
Exactly, right, and like you understand what it takes, and I feel like a lot of artists or musicians, they feel like it's a golden ticket. Oh, I'm signed. And it's like, okay, now I'm going to go on tour. It's not, man, because that relationship with the agent and the manager, it's a two-way street. If anything, that artist needs to work even harder to remain relevant, so that the manager and the agent's jobs are easier to be able to sign them, because it's a two-way street. What are we trying to represent if you're not making good music, or if you're not making music at all? Right? If you're not pushing yourself, like how's this even going to work out, right? And so and you see this a lot with DJs. I don't know about other bands, but I know this to be true, where a DJ gets signed and they just expect everything to happen. And then they complain, it's like, well, I'm signed to your agent, but it's like, but you're not doing anything.
I thought it came with 3 waters at the gig.
Exactly.
I got one?
And, it's happening in a sense. So what's great about EIF and the fact that I bring a lot of off-island DJs is that then these DJs are connecting with local DJs. And from there, a real relationship is built. And, now Silent is playing at Xylo Manila. I mean, he's playing at Valkyrie. And there's going to be more Guam DJs now.
And it's as easy as a call, like, hey, man, can you come out this day?
Right. Because the talent's already there, right? They're good DJs. But now it's making that connection. And then that's how things really work. It's through that natural, organic way. There's no push and shove. Oh, can we have our DJs play? It's like, dude, who are you? Like, I don't know you. But once we build that relationship, it's like, hey, dude, you're cool. Oh, do you have an artist? Oh, damn, he's good, right? You have to have, I guess, quality talent, right, to be able to go through that. But that's really how it works. And I think from there you create more opportunities. And at some point, if it does become a point where they're like, wow, they're putting music out, they built the network themselves, they understand the grind, right? That's when I'm going to be like, hey, let's take things to the next level.
So the industry would literally have to grow on its own here, like Petri dish style.
You know, in a sense, I truly believe so, and it's not just here. You know, I mean, it's even in LA. It's how I kind of approach artists that, you know, they hit me up, like, hey, you know, can you manage me? It's like, look, you need to manage yourself first, right?
Yeah.
Because until you understand who you are as a person, how you manage
Even
yourself,
as an artist, yeah.
right? You as an artist, right? Until you learn how to manage yourself, how would you know how you need to be managed,
Yeah.
right? In a sense, jeez, I just
it's all good.
intense on that. Yeah. I always push them back. I need a manager. No, you just need better scheduling. Like, you need a time block. Like, you need to be more disciplined yourself.
Yeah, download this app here, right?
Right, exactly, man. And yeah, that's, you know, I think it's an artist will know when it's time to be managed, and I think a manager will also know when it's being managed. And, you know, you kind of hit the nail on the coffin again on this one, is that there really needs to be, I guess, hopefully one day there will be someone that's going to be willing to take that lead of, like, man, you know, I understand the music business, you know, in and out, and I'm willing to take these local artists that's really been grinding it out, right, to the next level. But for now, I think where everybody needs to focus on is their own grind, just going through the process, understanding it, and from there things will happen naturally,
right, and unfold.
Yeah,
I'm very optimistic about the art scene in general here, or the creative art scene.
Same here.
You know, very, very optimistic. There's so much talent here, unexposed talent also, but I feel like it's just stuck here. You know, I mean, it's just here. Only we know about it. You know, why aren't people who are connected to this place out in the United States, you know, recognizing this thing and making it big? There's just as many Guamanians. There's maybe like 1 million Guamanians in the United States.
Right.
You know, like, where's that sort of, where can we find that bridge that connection with the arts and stuff like that? But then again, I think about it, it's like, maybe we don't really need them because we got the rest of the world.
Right,
At
exactly.
least creating art here, and especially we got the Asian region, where a lot of the Western ideologies of music and art are sort of creeping their way into the Eastern realm, right?
Right. No, back to Andy. There was a thought that I had running in my head.
It's okay.
Went blank on it.
Anything in particular?
When you were mentioning, I'm going through a blank right now.
Just music, bridging the gap.
Oh yeah, okay. There you go. Yeah. So the thing is, look, people focus too much on, like, okay, well, I'm gonna make local music, you know, and I'm gonna try to reach the Guam people, you know, outside of here, but not realizing that how powerful the internet is, you know. Back to what you're saying, oh, it's only heard here, but man, you can actually just publish things on Spotify.
That's right.
You can upload things on iTunes like you're doing, and be able to kind of break that barrier, right? I think a lot of times too, let's be honest, I think people are scared to self-promote because they feel like, okay, they're being too about themselves.
Yeah.
But my pushback to that is, look, if you suck and you're promoting yourself, then don't do that. That's a problem. But if you're truly good and there's people like, dude, your music is good, push that shit out, man. Promote it. Because, look, if you don't do it for yourself, who's going to do it for you?
Right.
In the beginning, it's all you. It really is, right? And, you know, and I push back as an excuse. Like, you're just coming up with an excuse saying, oh, well, we're from a small island and this is what we do.
And the thing about it is that you don't need to be part of just the island community. There's communities online that you can join, multiple communities that you can throw yourself into, and people will listen to it.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, you're popular in Sweden.
Exactly. That could exactly. That could happen. And you know what? Back to that is a lot of people is like, oh, well, I want to share my music to the world, right? But I think being more specific, it's like, look, if you can break through just one market, you can break through, right? You can break through essentially the world, right? And like, it could be Sweden, it could be Germany. Like, hey, maybe Fat Tofu blows up in Italy. Like you never know, right? And I think people just need to understand, where their audience is coming from. And I think through technology, through data, through Spotify, you can really then like put your music out and be able to dissect and really play the science of it, right? But But how many musicians are really putting in that work, right? They just go, well, I just want to make music. I just want to make music. But you know what? At some point, you got to be aware of how this whole industry works, right? And a lot of creative and a lot of musicians don't like to see themselves as a commodity, as a business. But I push back and say, well, you kind of are, because you're a brand and you're trying to make a living out of this, right? And you're trying to sustain. And isn't that what businesses try to do? They try to maintain a brand. They're trying to make money, a living, and they're trying to sustain their business, right? So, you know, it's really getting the artists to understand that they are essentially going into business for themselves, an entrepreneur in music. And being an entrepreneur means you gotta, you know, you have to wear multiple hats, at least in the beginning, to understand marketing and promotions, to understand, you know, contracts and stuff. It's not fun, but it's part of the process.
For sure.
It's part of the, you know, it's not things that they enjoy, but it's part of what you do, though. And you can't just always focus on the good part of it, right?
Yeah.
I hate drafting contracts. I really do. I'd rather promote an event, be out there, but I know that I have to draft these contracts, these sponsorship contracts. It's a headache, but I got to do it. It's part of the process, right? And I'm sure there are things that you dread about this
every
day.
Every day,
right?
And I've been behind on some stuff.
You're right, but you know, I mean, that's is it as well. I mean, dude, procrastination, that's everyone. Everyone. It's not just you, man. It's me as well. And, you know, and that's the everyday struggle, that everyday resistance that creators go through.
Right. Do you think EDM music here on Guam is still in its infancy stage?
I wouldn't say in its
as far as production and or even just well, not event production, but production
like
of
music production.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for sure. I think now, because, you know, dance music has become popular in a sense. I mean, you hear it in stadiums, you know, it's all over the radio. I think local artists who are a little more, I guess, open in their music genres, right? Jed, for example, I'll just use him.
Right.
You know, he's a rapper, right? He's very much into hip hop, but he has an EDM track with Silent, and it blends well. It works,
right?
Equal.
Yeah.
And it works, you know, and I was so happy, like, to hear that, you know, and they were promoting that it's the first, you know, locally produced electronic music, and it's true.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, and they did it, and
it sounded really good.
Right. No, for sure. You know, I think that is sort of the beginning of it. So yeah, I mean, it just got produced, what, a year and a half ago?
Yeah, within the last couple years.
Yeah. So, you know, it's definitely in its infancy stage, and there's a few other local DJs that actually has music out. EJ Flores is another one. He actually has a few tracks out on Beatport. But, you know, it's always that internal battle. Like, okay, well, I write this music. Yeah. Like, who's downloading it? Who's listening to it? And that's always been, again, another excuse for these artists of, like, okay, well, I'm not going to make music anymore because no one's listening. Then it's like, well, then why are you doing this? So that means you were only doing this for the sake of getting attention, not for the sake of the art, per se. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. Because I feel like with like regular like bands, you would have to uproot yourself and put yourself in the States in order to be seen in an industry. Like, but I think Four Pieces like broken that mold.
Yeah,
they're based here, but they fly out and they tour. They toured the nation. They toured the West Coast. John Dank's done a U.S. tour, West Coast tour.
Well, even before that, there's the DUB, the other band. I felt like they kind of like started that whole trend as well.
Shit,
yeah,
and even before that, the Casuals.
Oh, yeah, that's
like,
right.
Like
You're right.
In the 70s or 80s, you know, but with electronic music, like, you literally don't have to leave here to become popular. But the only thing is that you're dipping yourself into a big pool of many DJs on a world scale, right? So, I mean, you don't want to try and stand out like, I'm the best DJ there is here on this island.
Right.
The world's going to be like, where?
Exactly. You know, I think that's why it's really important for these artists and DJs to start bridging the gap, making these connections and creating opportunities, right? I mean, creating music is one thing, but I think if an artist can also create opportunities for themselves and being able to kind of just go out there, I think that plays a huge role in terms of how they actually grow locally, believe it or not, right? Because if you're just doing things locally, and even if you're really good, right, you're still a local act, but it's when you're just like, oh, you know, he's playing in Manila, Taipei, Seoul, LA. You come back, it's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna go check him out. You know, I mean, he's local, but man, he's gone out
big
there
everywhere.
So, right.
Yeah.
He's big everywhere, or he's starting to make grounds, or he's starting to build traction. That naturally builds local interest, believe it or not.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
I mean, it's that reverse psychology.
Yeah,
you know? When you're here, it's like, but it's like all of a sudden, dude, you're playing all over, and you come back.
It's it's like Boomer, right?
Yep.
Chris
exactly.
Boomer. He was playing on the local circuit for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, got picked up by Soulja. They took him out. Wrote an album.
Yep.
Toured with him.
Yep.
You know, he got love from the U.S. and he came back here and he was getting love.
Yeah, of course.
Getting more love than they gave him when he was playing with Rebel Lion, right?
Exactly. Right. That's how it works.
Yeah, it's
you
so
see
weird.
It all the time. It is so weird, man. It is weird, but in a sense too, I think, you know, that's kind of what happened as far as having the interest for EIF too. Is that, hey, who's this kid or who's this guy that is now bringing this back home, right? It's like, oh, he's doing things out here, but he's bringing it back home, and it's always weird and interesting, you know, because I feel like had I lived here and just like, hey, I'm gonna do a dance music, I just don't think that would work. Yeah. That appeal wouldn't have been there, because it's like, well, what makes you, you know, and it's interesting having that dynamic where you do things outside of your own home, but then when you bring it back or when you come back home, it's perceived as something bigger or more special, quote unquote. Yeah.
Right. Can you tell the difference between fandom and consumerism? Like people who just consume music to consume it, and people who really appreciate, you know, the music or the mixes that you're putting out?
I think fandom is the fans having knowledge, like just really being in tune with like the sound, right? I think fandom is where people that are craving for more, right? They don't stay stagnant. They don't just settle for like whatever the artist puts out. They critique it because they are so passionate about it. I feel like then the whole consumerism aspect of it is kind of following the general consensus and the hype that you're kind of seeing, right? And it's just like, okay, well, if everyone else likes it, or if everyone else is dancing to it, I'm kind of gonna gravitate towards that. And yeah, I mean, it's there's always a fine line, because the consumerism aspect of it is the mainstream crowd, is what we call it, right? I mean, this is where like huge superstars, top 40 acts, I mean, that's where it is, where I think the fandom is staying true to the art. But there's a pro and cons in both aspects of it, because if you as an artist are focusing on the consumerism aspect of it, right, trying to create music for the masses, and, you know, I don't care who listens to me, right, as long as there's ears and stuff, then I feel like the artist, quote, you know, is gonna at some point sell out, right? That's where the music integrity is behind than just getting the attention.
Just putting music to put music now,
right? Whereas the fandom route, obviously you're gonna be respected, but respect doesn't pay the bills, man. You know, and staying true to your art, while it is, you know, it sounds like a very, very humbling and genuine thing of it. You know, it's a harder path, and I think if any artist is willing to go that route, it's about writing. It's about sticking it out. It's about letting the genre come to you. And I say this as an example for techno music. Okay, that's like this more underground sound, because of how big EDM has got, Chainsmokers, all these things, right? The fandom part of it is starting to want more and more. It's like, you know what? I don't really like this. You know, I really like the music, but I want to evolve.
It's becoming popish.
Right. It's becoming popish, and I want more, and I want to evolve. And what's happening is that on the left side of the spectrum, there's all these artists that just been like, I only like underground music. I'm only going to play techno. I don't care. You know, I'll work 10 jobs. I don't, you know, this is my passion. And what happens, you're seeing the shift in the whole consumerism going to fandom, is now techno all of a sudden became like this real big genre, right? It's more like, it's more bass heavy. It's seen as a little bit more on the underground side, but because of how big EDM has got, this shift is now going into techno, right, on a more global scale per se.
Okay.
And the artists that have stayed true to the art are now enjoying this explosion because they're like
reaping the benefits.
They're like, what's going on? Like when I came to LA for like 10 years ago, 30 people came to my show. Now, like I come back, there's like 500, 600. They're blown away. And, you know, Gary V, I don't know if you,
yes, of course. That's his quote right there. Run the marathon, not the sprint.
Okay, nice. You know, he has this whole concept, and for musicians, it's like, dude, there's no better position you can put yourself is when you just stick to doing your thing and let it come to you. And right now, we're seeing that in techno. And, you know, that's the power and that's the difference of the whole consumerism and the fandom, the mindset, you know, at least for the musicians, like in terms of how they should approach it. Because this is what happened with a lot of DJs and producers that couldn't figure out which side to go to. And they eventually was like, you know what, I'm going to go with what's more popular. And now that this whole more popular side is fading out, they're stuck there, and the underground scene is not gonna be like, oh yeah, cool to come back in. No, do you? Once you step out of that realm and like you quote unquote try to sell yourself out and follow this whole like trend and market, at least with the electronic music industry, like we don't respect that at all. And if you go that route, good for you. But now that this is getting all popular, they're trying to come back like, oh, now I'm techno. I can do techno. It's like, no, man.
I've been doing techno since early 2000s.
Exactly, man.
I just took a break.
Exactly. Oh, you know.
Exploring creativity.
Right. So then they're changing their DJ name, changing their alias. It's like, dude, that was, no, man. No. Right? I mean, you see it with Hardwell saying, oh, I'm only going to play tech house. David Guetta, he has a new alias called Jack Back. And that's his whole, like, house and techno. And it's funny, man. It's like, you're literally just chasing what's popular, dude. Stop.
Right.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting take on I guess just the electronic music in general.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess I'm just trying to find a translation of how we can relate, you know, sort of what's going on the world scale to here. I mean, it doesn't seem like too much of a competition or a battle between DJs or trying to gain popularity on the local scale, because really it's still really small compared to what you would find in the States. Yeah,
for sure. You know, I think locally per se, there's definitely a sense of community, right? I mean, outside of electronic DJs or club DJs, there's a group called Scratchers Guam, and they do things at the Hive, and they're all coming together, scratching and stuff. I mean, it's
like
really
workshops,
right? Like workshops. You know, I was out all week this week, and you know there was a bunch of DJs playing, spinning, all hanging out. Everyone seems like they're in a good vibe. There's no bad vibes from it, and that's I think that's really important in order to sustain a community that's already kind of hard, you know, because DJing, it's always been like, okay, this is more of a hobby kind of per se, right? And everyone's doing it for the passion and love, and you know, I think really having that sense of community, it's what's gonna help continue to sustain, and hopefully, you know, the one or two people really break out of the mold and really kind of set the standard in terms of what this can actually mean and be. And I think, you know, I'm just gonna openly say, I think Josh Silent, you know, I think he could be the guy. I mean, he makes music, he's out there, he's connecting, you know, he's now to getting overseas gigs as well, and that's one person that, you know, I think could actually level things up.
Yeah, and possibly draw people to hear like, oh shoot, DJ Silent plays in Guam all the time.
Exactly, man. And
I'm gonna go visit there. You know?
Exactly. So that's, you know, that's at least what I kind of foresee sort of in the near future, man. If he continues this route, I mean, he's such a nice guy too, and being a nice guy, like just being a cool dude or a cool gal, right? And then being a talented artist, that goes so far beyond what people actually think, because as a promoter, I would never bring an asshole DJ. We booked a few artists from, you know, for EIF that were just straight fucking dicks, man. And it's like, I don't even want to deal with their entire agent. Like, I don't want to deal with their agency. I don't care about who you guys have. Like, if those are the artists that's on your roster, I'm not interested.
Give them the rundown, the 95 minivan.
Right, exactly.
Don't put them in the luxury car.
Exactly, man.
That's cool, man. I think with how and I've been here since the birth, I guess.
Yeah.
Of EIF. I moved back here in 2010. Like I said, you know, there was nothing like it, and now now there's been like an explosion of electronic music, but not only electronic music, of just music all across the board.
Yeah.
And it just makes me extremely curious of where this is going. You know, what's happening and what does it entail, you know, for musicians on Guam, right? Are we going to finally break into maybe the US scene, or are we going to fucking make our mark on the Asian scene?
Right.
Because those are two different worlds,
right?
But they're both playing the same game.
You know what? I will say this, right? For Electric Island Festival, we bring, you know, DJs. Maybe they're not big like the Chainsmokers or like, you know, Marshmello or whatnot, but these are reputable industry people that have mad connections. And I always tell guys like Silent, you know, all the DJs that surround me, is like, these are great networking opportunities.
For sure.
Right? We can bring you to the lake, but we can't help you drink the water. And I think how this is going to play out, I mean, I'll tell you how this is going to play out. When we bring an artist and they actually connect with a local DJ and they make a real meaningful connection, and all it takes is, hey, check out my music. Hey, you were cool. I like, you know, I had a good time in Guam. I'm going to have 5 minutes to listen to your music. Yeah. People don't have time these days. A lot of times you send them music blindly. Nobody ever listens to it. But when you build that networking relationship, they will at least give you 5 minutes. And if that music sounds good, hey, let me sign you. From there, you just have your first Guam artist signed to XYZ label because, you know, he or she created that opportunity for themselves while they were here, made a connection, got out of their own comfort zone to go approach this artist. And I feel like it's been 7 years, you know, and I just don't feel like all the artists really took that opportunity to like just say, hey, he's right there, Jia, can you introduce me to them?
Do you think it was an obvious opportunity to them, or is it something that you have to like force, or not force, but kind of like,
you know what,
nurture?
I brought it to awareness. In the end, it was just like, man, they're literally right there, you know. I mean,
like, go say something.
Right. To go say something, to go say hi. And I think, you know, Josh has definitely done that with the DJs that we brought up from the Philippines. Martin Polgar, Ace, Pal. I mean, they're big DJs in the Philippines. They play Ultra in the Philippines. You know, they opened up for the Chainsmokers, like all your favorite DJs. I mean, they were the openers. They opened for Steve Aoki. They're right there with them. So the fact that these people are now friends with them and they're like first degree connection with Axwell, Swedish House Mafias. I mean, you do the connection, right? I mean, all it takes is for, again, an imaginary scenario, right? Maybe Silence in the Philippines hanging out, and there's a big DJ playing, and it's their manager in the back hanging out, and he gets an opportunity to meet him, quote unquote, right? I mean, and things happen. I mean,
and it may not even happen directly. It could be like, hey, I know a guy who you can talk to, where your music will really fit into.
Exactly.
Or this club, you know, your music has this vibe for this club.
Exactly.
Let me put your name out there. Send me some of your shit.
Exactly. And, you know, I think that aspect of it brings a lot of, like, uncomfortableness for artists, because networking's hard.
Oh, hell yeah, man.
It gives people anxiety, bro. You know,
going out, putting yourself out there. When I first started this podcast, this was, like, the hardest thing for me to do. I mean, I had a couple of my friends helping me out, but ultimately in the end, it was like, I have to go out there and find these people. And like, I'm not credible. When I first started, all I was thinking was like, who am I?
Imposter syndrome, right?
I'm not a major radio station or talk show station. I'm just a dude who's like, hey, you want to come over to my apartment? Or
and let's talk.
What do you want to do? Just talk to you for a couple hours.
I will document it. Yeah. I'll put it, you know, but hey, dude, you're doing it. And look, you know, it's always that resistance. And I call it resistance because it really is, right? It's that internal push and pull. Like, dude, one day you got it. The other day it's like, wait, you know.
Start second guessing.
Who am I? Right. Who am I? Like, you know, is this really what I want to do, or is this, you know, or what do people think about this, right? Oh, what do they think? Am I doing this now? Like, it could be anything, right? And it's called resistance. So what happens, and it really fucks creatives up, right? Because once you start having that resistance, then it's like, all right, let's just play video games because that's easier. That's more fun. That's more safe, right? Rather than you coming up with the concept of this podcast, coming up with the schedules and all that. It's like, you know, I can deal with that later. Or, I'd rather go eat dinner with my friends and stuff. I mean, it's any excuse that takes you away from doing your real work. That's a resistance, bro. And a resistance is also procrastination
For sure.
as well. So, yeah, man, good for you. Seriously.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean,
what episode are we in right now?
180.
180. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect,
so,
man.
I mean, I've been doing this 4 years, and it's cool. It's cool to see the way it's evolved, and that's what I like. That's what I like to see out of like other people and like other like maybe events and stuff. Is like evolution.
Yep.
It's very, very important, right? Matt wasn't even here less than or more than a year ago, and all these cameras and TV screen or computer. It was just me, a microphone, not even these mics, those mics, and that was it, right? And I think we get too hung up on trying to get the best shit to make us sound the best, and trying to be the best rather than just
doing it.
Yeah,
just do it.
Trucking through the mud, Eventually you'll get out of the mud, but you have to fucking pay your dues in that respect of it's gonna suck.
Yeah, I've actually, when you first launched your podcast, I was actually aware of it already, and I still remember it being there was none of this for sure, and if anything, I don't even think you even had this at a microphone. It was just it was like 4 friends and just something small, but I mean, but it was interesting because at least for me, right, I was getting into listening to podcasts, and when you started this, it was like, man, nice, someone from Guam actually, is stepping onto the plate and getting into the whole podcast game, and dude, it's not easy.
Yeah, dude, the biggest like challenge or like most discouraging thing was like, hey, I got a podcast. Like, what's a podcast?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what do you do on it? Like, what radio station do I find it on? It's like,
right.
Oh no, it's a internet thing, And so it was like playing this game of like explaining to people what these things are, but you know what? It's now the community is growing, and this is what I've been wanting for years since I first started this. I don't want to be the only one. Right. No one ever. You got to be narcissistic to want to be the only one doing anything.
Right.
And I've been in the music scene, and I've seen the rock community, the reggae community, all these different kind of communities, and I wanted that for this genre of talk radio or talk, right? Not even radio, but just talk. And now that it's finally coming together and we're seeing people do more and more podcasts, it's like, damn, all right, things are shaping up. People are being more accepting of their thoughts, and
it goes back to what I talked about earlier, letting it come to you, right? Because this whole thing, it's a very new thing. It's like, in a sense, it's kind of underground. It's like underground talk radio, right? But like, you believed in it, you stuck through it, you had your own thing, and now podcast is huge now.
Oh man, dude.
Podcast is huge. But 4 years ago, and being in Guam, right? I mean, it's like, what is it? What's a podcast?
Hello?
Right.
Whoa.
Right. What's a podcast? It's a new iPod? No. Seriously, and and you stayed in it, and now it's gravitating towards you, and there's and you're inviting really, really cool guests on your show, and I'm sure with each episode you're gaining momentum, you're gaining confidence, and with each guest that you bring in, they want to help you promote the show, and I want to see you succeed doing this.
Thank you.
You're creating something here for sure.
Thank you.
An experience, a mindset, being able to educate and inform, this I guess subculture community that we have here.
That's something I've been really, really thinking about on this maybe like in the last like couple weeks, was subculture and how it's really shaping who we are identity wise
for this generation,
because you have a whole generation who has no idea who the fuck they are. I went through it, you know what I mean?
I just went through it at the age of 35. I think I might know who I am. Maybe.
And we all still, and there were people who still continually go through it. But now that we have this influence of the internet technology, being able to travel more, people are going to more Asian countries, people are exposing themselves to the United States, to the outer islands. And so now we're coming back with this knowledge and these ideas that we can sort of like make here. And now we're creating these little subcultures to where the bigger culture, it still matters, the indigenous culture, it still matters.
Right.
But it's the subcultures that are really going to shape this.
Right.
place.
And this subculture, I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, from fashion, right? You have a subculture for fashion, music, right? It's the whole underground. I mean,
culinary,
right? I mean, even radio and talk, right? This right here, this podcast is a subculture. I mean, everything. It's kind of like it's all these pockets of subculture that makes this, I guess, subculture thing really, really big now. And it's not big, but it's like influential. It's impactful, and you know, bigger companies are not denying this anymore. If anything, they're trying to see how they can integrate into this subculture because it has so much influence and impact in what I consider the strongest consumer demographic, which is why all these big companies are, hey, what's going on here? What's going on
They're
here?
kind of scaling down their typical standard operating procedures when it comes to certain things, and now going to the local level and seeing and realizing like, oh shit, you don't have to do this much. People just want this sometimes.
Yeah. And it actually has a bigger impact, you know.
And you know, I'm on this belief that, you know, subculture is what's going to evolve the identity of this place, is because we grow up here and then we go up to the States and all of a sudden we don't really know who we are. Yeah. Because we thought we knew who we were, but a lot of people don't even know where this place is or where we come from or who, and then it starts throwing all kinds of questions to the self. And then when we're out in the States, we sort of attract ourselves to these subcultures in which we do find an identity. But now that these subcultures are growing here on Guam and kind of like petri dishing each other, and it'll eventually grow into a microcosm of subcultures.
Right. And you know, I think the most interesting thing that you know, I can say this time coming to Guam, and that actually happened last night, was seeing pockets of people who are influential in their own subcultures locally coming together, just hanging out, talking. That was really cool last night. Just seeing, you know, the Randy from Crowns, Jared from the Native, Jed there. I was there. Eric Shea, who's the godfather of techno. Right? There's all these, and I saw these other cool kids there. I mean, I don't know who they are, but they seem pretty influential and impactful. But it's like we're all hanging out, mingling, you know, introducing each other. Hey, you know, so-and-so, et cetera. And everyone just has a lot of good vibes and respect for each other. And I think that's really the mindset that everyone kind of has now going in. It's like, let's not sabotage each other. If anything, let's, you know, to respect each other, first of all, right? And let's see what we can do in terms of help each other out, right? And, I mean, subculture, in a sense, is already kind of a small demographic. But, like, we bring it to Guam, you know, it's even smaller, right? But then I think if each of us from all these different scenes, whether you're in the F&B with your new food truck concept or, you know, being a creator for events, I mean, I think as long as we can stick together and respect each other and, you know, and talk good and encourage each other, you know, I think that's what we all need, man. You know, a little bit of encouragement, like, hey, man, you're doing something good. You keep going. I know it's hard, but you know, we're all in this together, right? Sometimes a little bit of that, it just brings a smile to someone's face, and maybe that's what they need to kind of continue and push forward.
For sure, man, right there.
Boom.
Matt, how long have we been going here, bro?
An hour and 35.
Ooh, yeah, that was good, dude. That was good, dude.
Yeah, I know. I try to give like a 1 hour to 2 hour block. If it goes over, it does.
Yeah, no, dude, this is good, man. Yeah, you know, I felt like, this is a good conversation for sure.
Yeah, dude, and this is literally our first time, and you know, with doing this podcast, this is the thing I'm like most appreciative of doing, is like being able to like meet people. And even though like I've known you since I was in high school, but like not known each other on this sort of like level, and now that I'm able to create relationships with people through the podcast, like one of my I just did an episode with Blake Watson.
Okay.
And it was only through the podcast that our friendship is just like, you know, it's like blossom, right? And it's real cool. It's real cool. I really love this medium and just being on it. And thank you, bro.
You know, no, Maddie, thank you for having me, for sure. And, you know, I wish you all the best in this podcast. I mean, I think that you're doing something very, very cool, you know, and that you're paving your own way, and it's coming to you, and I'm starting to see the growth of it. And awesome.
You wanna put anything out there? Anything else you want to touch on? I feel like, man, we really touched.
We touched deep, man.
You know,
I think, you know, right now, like a really, really big mantra of mine. I was on the radio yesterday, and it's, it's all over my Instagram. I have a course out, called Artist Map, which is a foundational like framework for musicians and artists. And, the pushback's like, well, Jia, you're not a musician. So, how are you able to create this process? And it's like, look, man, at the end of the day, we're all human beings, and it all starts with the mindset. And the one thing that I just really want to be able to express, and even through EIF, since the beginning, is just, look, man, positive, negative, it's a choice. It's a decision that you make, right? And I think growing up in Guam too, I mean, I've been picked on, I've seen things more on the negative side of things, right? Because that's just where things default. It's a small island, less opportunities, like all these things that you can feel sorry for yourself or come up with excuses. But, after going through what I've been through the last 12 years, being from Guam and actually seeing a lot of Guam people doing big things, right? And it's like, what's the difference between those people and those who kind of just gave up in a sense? And I think it always comes down to that mindset, man. That mindset's everything. And if you just can be grateful, right, every day, like, just look, at least I'm not homeless, or I hope you're not homeless right now, but as long as
you're listening to this on a phone, there's no way you're homeless.
right. So that's the whole thing, is just be more positive. And people's like, well, how? It's like, as much as it's cheesy, it's mainstream, but man, just being grateful that you're alive and that you have the opportunity to choose whatever it is you want to do. That alone is like, that makes you like the top 10% of this whole global population already, just being that. Sure. And then from there, being able to take the right action to go after it. I mean,
just the fact that it's available for you, like
exactly,
you said, it's just an option.
Just being more positive, man. I know it's not the most popular, thing to say. It's but what choice do we have than what be mopey and sad about all this and feel sorry for it? Like, what does that do?
Yeah, for
nothing.
Sure.
And that's that. That's my final piece of spiel.
Yeah, can I add on to that? I try to live my life of not being in competition with others, but trying to beat others, but just trying to beat life, because
you're your own competition.
Yeah. We get so distracted. I just posted something on my stories too about we're so focused on other people who are winning, or other people who are finding their own success, or us wanting to do what we've always been doing, hanging out with our friends, or watching TV, because everything's so simple. But we don't realize how easy it is. And you kept punching it on mindset, dude, and we don't realize how easy it is to change the mindset.
Yeah.
Like easy,
man.
Easy. And but it's just maybe because it's not tangible, right? Mindset isn't tangible, so it's not like you can fucking come back to it and it's shaped in the same way that you left it. It's gonna, when you come back to it in your mind, it's gonna be just as mangled, if not more, because life doesn't work out perfectly in that.
Exactly. And Gary talks about it. I mean, mindset, yes, it's easy, but at the same time, you also need to be understanding of people's environments, right? They may have an abusive dad. They may grow up in, in a house full of addiction, right? And it's like, it's easy for us. Maybe we, good thing my parents weren't, any of that, but, but you also have to understand that there were people like that. And like, maybe it's harder for them because their entire lives, they've been suffocated by what they've always known,
that they can't sort of recognize the ease of it.
Exactly. But that's not their fault, but being aware of it and then being able to adjust and change that's their responsibility,
right? And then being aware of it and not changing it is their fault.
That's sad. Yeah, to be honest.
Dude, before we cut out of here, what do you want? Anything you want to put on? Promote, plug in, of how people can follow you, EIF, put everything out there, dude.
For sure, sounds good. Here in Guam, right, it's a little more, I guess, the relevant. So EI Festival, that's our handle at EI Festival. And what we have done through our platform is we've been promoting a lot of positive message, right? Being more mindful, being more thoughtful. So if you're having a bad day, man, come check out our Instagram. We're always posting something, that warms the heart, because I know life is hard and time is relentless, man. And it just keeps going. And, we have to just be more aware and realize how lucky we are to be able to experience this. So,
sure.
Yeah, and if you want to follow me, I am at Gia 6 a.m. So it's JIA, the number 6 a.m. Follow me there. I talk a lot about mindset on my own platforms and how, everyone should just stop being sad about themselves or coming up with excuses, and let's fight through life, man.
For sure, dude. Because it's a never-ending battle.
Never-ending battle until the last breath.
For sure. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, dude. I'm hoping to make it tomorrow. To the road to EIF. Yeah, can you tell people like when the other since?
Yeah, so our main the festival is June 22nd. That's the main EIF coming. Yeah, that's gonna be another great celebration. It's our 7th year. We're really using that to kind of, in a sense, like I said, it's not easy producing a festival like this, being away. Everyone's working. So when you show up to the festival, just know how much work we have put since January of this year. It's not something that just popped up, and we want people to realize that, look, if there's a kid from Guam that during my senior year we're on food stamps, no joke, that's able to kind of do all this, man. I mean, anyone can do it. Trust me.
For sure.
All right,
Gia, thank you, bro, again. And,
thank you, boo.
We'll do this again, maybe before you come out or when you come out for June.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Let me know. And yeah, thank you for everyone for listening. Matt, any last parting words for everybody? No, you're good. No, yeah, okay. He's given the Cheerio sign. Actually, this sign now, ever since that whole all the shootings and stuff, like it's supposed to be like a racist sign.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't want to do that no more.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. You guys. It's on the news. Jeez. Maybe on the next episode we'll talk. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, it's just the world's crazy. It's all crazy, but we're all living through it, and we just have to all push through, no matter fucking what.
Yep.
So, on that note, Matt loves you. I love you, and until next time, peace out.
Awesome. Nice, man. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That was